Ever get that feeling like something just isn't right?
Oh, yeah.
Like a gut feeling.
Definitely.
Well, that's kind of how investigators felt when they first walked into Jaquin Atkins's house back in March in 2021. So here's the basic situation. You have this young guy, successful, and he's found dead on his couch.
Okay.
Initially, it seems like an open and shut case, suicide. But as we dig deeper, I think you'll see why this is anything but straightforward.
I bet.
So in this deep dive, we're going to be going through police reports, phone records. We even have some photographs to try and get to the bottom of what really happened to Jaquin.
That sounds pretty interesting. What's really fascinating to me about this case is how that initial assumption of suicide, like you said, it just unravels so quickly.
Yeah.
As you go through the evidence, like every little detail adds another layer to the mystery.
Oh, absolutely.
And you really start to question, like, everything.
Yeah, you find yourself second-guessing a lot of things. So let's go back to that day in March. Picture this. Quiet neighborhood in Richmond, Virginia. Police arrive at Jaquin's house. And at first glance, everything seems totally normal. There are no signs of a struggle, no forced entry. All his valuables are just right where they should be.
Okay.
You can almost picture it, right? There's a half-finished tequila drink. It's just sitting on the ottoman, next to Jaquin's body on the couch.
Wow.
It's like he just stepped away for a minute.
It's that normalcy that is so unsettling.
Yeah.
That lack of, any obvious signs of foul play.
Right.
That immediately makes investigators think, okay, suicide.
Right. That's the first thing that pops in your mind.
Yeah. But we're going to see that path is full of inconsistencies.
Yeah, lots of twists and turns. And one of the first inconsistencies comes from Jaquin's cousin, Richard. He was also his roommate.
Okay.
Richard tells the police that he'd worked the overnight shift and came home and found Jaquin on the couch.
Right.
But here's where it gets a little strange. He claims that he walked past him twice.
Oh, wow.
Didn't even realize that Jaquin was dead.
Oh, so strange.
Yeah, it wasn't until hours later, after a call from Jaquin's half-brother, Eric, that Richard actually, took a closer look.
This delay in calling 911 and combined with Richard's kind of casual demeanor definitely raises some red flags.
Yeah.
Does this really sound like someone who just found their roommate dead?
Right.
Or is there something else going on here? Is Richard hiding something?
Yucky. It makes you wonder. Now, Eric, the half-brother, he's an interesting person in all of this.
Okay.
Initially, he's described as being close to Jaquin. But as the investigation goes on, his behavior gets more and more suspicious.
Oh, how so?
Well, he avoids talking to the police, doesn't show a lot of emotion at the funeral, and there's even this strange moment where he whispers something to Jaquin in the casket.
Oh, wow. What do you make of that?
It's really hard to say.
Those actions definitely don't match the image of, a grieving brother.
Not at all.
Especially avoiding the police, It's almost like he's trying to just get away from the whole situation.
Right.
Which is super unusual when you think about it when someone close to you dies, especially under mysterious circumstances.
Yeah. Then there's this whole thing about a missing gun. Police find a .223 assault rifle casing at the scene.
Oh, wow.
Which means a gun was fired, right?
Right.
Now, Jaquin did own a rifle that matched that caliber, but it was gone. Nowhere to be found.
Oh, that's like a key piece of the puzzle that's just missing.
Exactly.
Huh.
And the fact that the weapon is missing immediately makes you question the whole suicide theory.
It does. It really does.
It really suggests that maybe somebody took the gun from the scene, right?
Right.
Which points to something a lot more sinister than, a self-inflicted death.
Absolutely, yeah.
To understand what might have happened, we really need to go back and look at the hours before Jaquin died. And this is where two other important people come into the picture. Brianna, who was, I guess you could say, casually dating Eric at the time, and her friend Janice. So these four, Eric, Jaquin, Brianna, and Janice, they were all at Jaquin's house that Saturday night.
Okay.
And Brianna's testimony becomes really crucial here. She tells police that she saw Eric with a gun tucked into his waistband. Then later, during a polygraph test, she reveals something even more disturbing. She claims that at one point, Eric actually called her into Jaquin's bedroom and showed her Jaquin's .223 rifle, which he had taken from under the bed.
Wait, so he actually pointed the gun at her?
That's what she's saying. She told him to stop, which thankfully he did. But it's a very chilling detail, isn't it?
It's very chilling.
It not only places Eric with the potential murder weapon, but it also kind of shows this reckless disregard for safety.
Oh, for sure. It's hard to believe someone would just point a loaded gun at someone else like it's nothing.
I know, especially in that way, so casually.
Yeah.
But hold on tight, because the story doesn't stop there.
Oh, no.
Investigators decided to take a look at Eric's cell phone records, and things get even more complicated.
I bet they do. So, in the early morning hours on Sunday, right around when we think Jaquin died, Eric's phone records show a bunch of calls to a woman
Okay.
in a totally different county.
Mm.
And get this,
Yeah.
he even calls their dad to tell him Jaquin's dead
Wow.
before Richard supposedly found the body.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
He called his father before Richard even knew.
Yeah,
That seems really suspicious.
it is.
Why would he do that?
It just throws a huge wrench in that timeline that Richard gave at first.
Yeah.
If Eric knew Jaquin was dead before Richard supposedly found him,
Right.
it makes you think maybe he knows more about what happened than he's saying.
Yeah, like he's trying to get his story straight before anyone else can even ask questions.
Right, exactly.
It definitely makes you think, was he involved somehow?
Right.
It gets even crazier though, right?
Yeah.
What about Jaquin's phone? What did they find on that?
This is where things get really interesting. So hidden in Jaquin's photos,
Okay.
investigators find 2 pictures, and these completely change the case.
What are the pictures of?
They show Eric holding that .223 rifle.
No way.
One photo, it's behind his back,
Okay.
and the other, it's pointed right at Jaquin.
Wow, talk about a smoking gun.
Yeah.
Those pictures are, that seems like pretty damning evidence, doesn't it?
They really are. Not only do they put Eric with the gun,
Right.
but the timestamps on those photos put them right around the time we think Jaquin died.
Oh, wow.
It also seems to back up what Brianna said about seeing Eric with the rifle that night.
Yeah, for sure.
It all fits together.
With all of this, you would think the prosecutor would be ready to charge Eric, right?
You would think.
But that's just not what happened at all.
This is where things hit a wall.
Hmm.
Despite all this evidence, the prosecutor didn't press charges.
Why? Why not? I don't understand.
She said there wasn't enough evidence to guarantee a conviction.
I'm not a lawyer,
Right.
but to me, it seems pretty open and shut.
I know.
What more do they need?
It's important to remember the legal system, it works on a very specific standard.
What's up?
Proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Mm,
We might look at this and think it's obvious,
right.
but the prosecutor, she has to consider every single angle.
So what are some of the angles that the defense might use? Like, how could they try to get around this?
Well, they could say, okay, the photos show Eric with the gun,
Yeah.
but they don't actually prove he pulled the trigger. They could say those pictures were taken out of context or that someone else fired the gun. It's what they call circumstantial evidence.
Okay.
And that can be tough to prove.
So what would make the case stronger? What kind of evidence would they need to shut down the defense?
Honestly, the best thing would be a confession from Eric.
Right.
But he hasn't said anything, and he has a lawyer. So that's not likely.
Yeah.
Another thing that would help would be an eyewitness. Someone who actually saw what happened that night.
But we know Eric and Jaquin were alone
Right.
in the house when it happened.
Exactly. So that's why this case, it all comes down to how they understand this evidence.
Mm.
The prosecutor, she might be looking for something to support what Brianna said.
Right.
Maybe someone who saw Eric with the gun that night or someone who heard something.
Something suspicious.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's all about filling in those blanks and making sure there are no holes in the story, right?
That's it.
So the defense can't come in and make up a new story.
Exactly. Yeah.
What about Detective Godwin? He seemed pretty convinced that Eric was responsible.
He did. He was very vocal about it.
Yeah.
He thinks Eric is involved somehow.
Yeah.
He even said that maybe Jaquin's death, maybe it was an accident.
An accident? How?
His theory is that Eric, maybe he was trying to scare Jaquin or just showing off, and he pointed the gun at him, but it went off.
Oh, wow.
It would explain why Eric acted the way he did afterwards.
Yeah, like trying to hide things, that weird phone call to his dad, even those internet searches about how to get rid of a gun.
Right.
It all points to someone who's panicking.
Yeah.
After something really bad happened.
And don't forget about that fight Eric had with Jaquin's mom, Alana.
Oh, right, a year later.
Yeah, and she ended up shooting him.
It just adds another layer to this whole messed up family situation.
It does.
It's just so sad to think that Jaquin's family is left with so many questions,
I know.
knowing that the person who might be responsible might never face justice.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's just a horrible situation no matter how you look at it.
Yeah.
You have the investigators who think they know who did it,
Yeah.
a family that just wants answers,
Right.
and yet nothing's been solved.
Yeah, it's tough.
What do you think it would take for someone to come forward to finally say something? Put yourself in their shoes for a second.
Okay.
What if you knew something that could crack this case wide open?
That's a really good question.
Would you say something?
It's tough because it goes beyond just the evidence. It
Yeah.
makes you think about relationships. Like,
Yeah.
how loyal are you to the people you know? What are you afraid of? What if you talk and then bad things happen?
Right. And you could even feel guilty for not saying anything.
Exactly.
Jaquin's aunt, Yolanda, she actually made a public statement, begging anyone with information to come forward.
Oh, wow.
She said, if it was you, Jaquin would have done that for you.
Wow, that's powerful.
She really believes he would have done anything to help his friends,
Yeah.
and that now they owe it to him to do the same.
It really highlights how difficult this is. Do you stay quiet and protect someone?
Right.
Or do you speak up and maybe get justice for Jaquin?
Detective Godwin, he hasn't given up, though.
Good.
He still believes that someone knows something,
Yeah.
even if it seems unimportant.
Right, like a tiny detail.
Yeah,
That could be what they need.
exactly. Sometimes that's all it takes in a case like this, right? Just a small detail, a piece of information that seems totally random,
To connect everything.
and change the whole investigation.
It happens more than you think.
So where does that leave us?
Yeah.
What have we learned from this deep dive into Jaquin Atkins' death?
It's a reminder that even when things seem obvious, getting justice can be really hard.
Yeah.
We've seen how stories can change, how people can act suspiciously, how even strong evidence like photographs
Right.
might not be enough.
It really makes you think about the fact that behind every case file and police report, there are real people.
Yeah.
People who are dealing with something horrible.
And sometimes they're left with no answers.
Yeah, no explanation for what happened to their loved one.
It's a terrible feeling.
We may never know exactly what happened that night in March 2021.
It's true.
But we can't stop asking questions, can we?
No.
We have to keep searching for the truth.
And make sure Jaquin isn't forgotten.
If you have any information about this case, anything at all, please call the Richmond Police Department.
It can make all the difference.
Even the smallest detail could be what they need to finally bring closure to this case.
Exactly.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive into this real-life mystery,
Yeah.
be sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive.
That's right.
For more stories like this, true crime, mysteries, and the search for justice.
We'll be back with more.
Until next time, stay curious and keep looking for the truth.